How can I talk to my child?
My students need help.
I really need to talk to somebody.
Is
about
this normal?
I don't know how to respond.
What am I supposed to do?
Surely there's training somewhere to handle this.
Hello, I'm Robert Rabin, and I serve as the President of National Center for Youth Issues. And we're delighted today to have with us from Cape Coral, Florida, Dr. Russell Sabella. And Russ currently serves as a professor of counseling at Florida Gulf Coast University, and he's a past president of the American School Counselors Association. Russ has authored scores of journal articles and has also authored or co-authored 6 books centering on counseling issues. 2 of those books, schoolcounselor.com and guardiankids.com, are available through NCYI. Russ also conducts workshops and training sessions throughout the country, and he provides these workshops for educators, parent groups, as well as school assemblies. Russ, welcome to NCYI.
Thank you.
And why don't we go ahead and get started?
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Russ, how did you become interested in the area of internet and technology safety among children?
Well, that's a really good question. I started out with an interest actually, in the area of counseling technology. And so for many years now, I've been trying to answer this question of how is it that counselors can use technology more effectively, efficiently, and more enjoyably in their work. For the past decade now, though, the question has really come up. As we integrate technology more into education with children, how is it that not only we leverage that technology to help them succeed, but also, and maybe even just as important here, is how is it that we reduce the risks that come with irresponsible use of technology? And so in the last few years, I've really spent quite a bit of time working not only with counselors, but with all educators, and especially kids and parents, so that they can actually leverage these high-tech, powerful tools to really focus more on how it is they can achieve and how to reduce the risk of how these tools might be putting them at risk if they use them irresponsibly.
Well, thank you, Russ. And we had mentioned earlier that Russ is the author of several books. One is guardiankids.com. And Russ, what led to your writing that book? And can you tell us just a little bit about it, please?
Sure. As I was doing more work with parents, counselors, and others in the area of internet and technology safety, they would ask me for resources. And so as I would try to recommend these resources, what I noticed was that there were these books and training materials, but they were kind of myopic. You had your books on MySpace and you had your books on cyberbullying, and I thought what we needed and what was not available at the time was a book that a parent or a counselor could pick up that could really educate them about more of the overall electronic terrain. And so my book is a little bit more comprehensive. And also, though, includes some chapters on solutions, both human relational solutions and both technological solutions that parents, counselors, kids, and others could use to manage the risk that comes with some of the high-tech tools.
Well, Russ, the book is very well done, and it's in one that's in great demand throughout the country through the National Center for Youth Issues as well as other publishers and distributors. So congratulations on a book very well done.
Thank you.
Russ, what would you say are the most primary concerns regarding children and technology?
Well, you know, just like I cover in my book, there's a lot of different bases to cover. But what we know is that right now, there are 3 primary concerns. First and foremost is cyberbullying. How is it that some kids are using technology to really harm others and cause destruction? And so that's probably one of our #1 issues. The other 2 include how it is that some kids are posting personal information and making that information public for others to see. Not only inappropriate, but sometimes it can actually come back to hurt them by creating an obstacle to jobs, employment, military, and post-secondary education. So we're calling that a positive digital reputation. So the question is, how is it that we can get kids from an early age to make sure that when we put their name in a search engine, that only positive information comes up. Thirdly, and this is really one that we're trying to make sure that parents understand, which is that the internet is filled with inappropriate information. And so without the proper precautions, by giving kids not only computers with internet access, but with all the gadgets, cell phones and Xbox 360s and PSPs and all these different gaming devices and iPods and iTouches and all these things, anything that's web enabled gives kids access to really an adult world. And a lot of parents are shocked to really start and begin to see what it is that they actually do have access to. And so we're trying to get the message to parents that before you outfit your child with all of these high-tech tools, understand how to implement some of the precautions that limit the child's access to the parts of the internet that they should not have access to.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Russ, we're both in the midst of raising teenagers ourselves, so not only do we speak and train and offer resources in this area, but we're living it in our own homes. And with teenagers at home, it's a different world. It's one that you and I probably could not have even imagined 15, 20 years ago, much less when we were growing up. And it's a world full of opportunity to our children, but also great peril. And so we really appreciate the great work that you do in this area to help us understand how to minimize the peril that's out there for our children. Russ, you know, speaking of the risks of the cyber world that we live in, what are some tips that you might recommend in regards to children's use of technology?
Well, in the book and also in the workshop, we go through several tips, but here are some basic and a few of the examples of those. First of all, I kind of break them down into two categories. The first is human and relational. The second is technological, and what we know is that you have to have both. You can't just rely one on the other. So, for instance, on the technological side, we're trying to get the word out to parents that every gadget, every web-enabled appliance, every computer should come with blocking and filtering software. But we can't rely on just that. And so we're also helping them understand how it is that they can really connect with their kids, use their kids as teachers. In other words, instead of questioning them and interrogating them about what it is they're doing with technology, really try to connect with them in a way that helps them be the teacher. Ask good questions, perhaps even ask questions about things that they already know, but just to give the opportunity to have kids start conversations, which then could lead to conversations about their own personal use of technology and how it is that that use of technology is right and responsible and realistic. We're also teaching counselors and educators and others to help parents not only be more aware, but take that awareness and make better decisions about how technology should be used. So we're telling them set up appropriate conditions for how and when technology are used. Establish clear boundaries. Also implement appropriate consequences for when kids kind of get off track. And so the other thing too is that this is really a process that includes really the team. And so we're helping administrators evaluate their policies on how cyberbullying may cause I want to say a reduction in the quality of the learning environment. We're helping parents make good decisions, and we're also helping counselors with a good curriculum that they can use in the classroom in order to help kids, who, by the way, are really the bottom line in all this.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got to help kids be self-disciplined and aware, and in so doing that, be able to make useful and responsible decisions even when it is that we are not looking.
Well, those are excellent points, and I like the way you weave in. It's a team approach, so it's the school, it's the parent, but it's also the children and teens themselves, and that they're part of the solution. And it sounds like you're recommending they be part of weighing in on setting the boundaries and understanding the use. So I really appreciate those excellent comments. Well, Russ, as we're wrapping up, do you have any other thoughts about how to help kids avoid high-tech trouble?
I do, actually. I think one of the points that I want to emphasize too is that technology can be a wonderful thing. Our kids, yours, mine, and everyone else's, really have opportunities now that we could never have imagined. They have the tools and the power to do what 5, 10 years ago only multi-million, billion-dollar companies could do. And so we need to help kids be able to use these high-tech gadgets in order to really leverage that power to help them achieve in our 21st century high-tech, flat, global world. At the same time, though, what I'm finding is that kids want to do the right thing, but we have kind of fallen a little bit in being able to give them the appropriate training. You know, we don't give kids the opportunity to drive a car without proper training and eventually getting a license. But yet we're outfitting them with these technologies that, used irresponsibly, could cause serious and significant damage. So I think as adults, we have to step up to the plate, whether we're parents or educators or policymakers, and do both. Help kids leverage technology to help them succeed, but at the same time, put in place provisions, especially education and training among kids, to help reduce the risks that sometimes technology can cause.
Well, those are some excellent points. And you know, I think one of the things we've learned over the years in this work is that adults really are the solution. They must intervene in these situations, set the boundaries as you mentioned. And the teens have responsibility, the children and teens have responsibility as well for the choices they make, but we must set clear boundaries. And I like your challenge to the adults, really to step up to the plate, as you mentioned, to address the great risks and hazards that the internet does present to us in this cyber world, and cell phones and all the ways they can connect in cyberspace. And so it's incumbent upon us as adults to be aware of what's going on and to set the boundaries and to work with our children and teens for the goal of safety, but to also allow them to take advantage of the opportunities made available through the internet and other technology. So Russ, thank you so much for your insights today. We really appreciate the great work that you do throughout our country, serving school systems and parent groups, and ultimately our children and teens in this new age that we live in.
Yes.
And so we wish you Godspeed and safe travels back to Florida. And thank you for being with us here at NCYI today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. As we're wrapping up our interview today, let's go over what we've learned. High-tech tools are intrinsically useful, but kids and adults must be aware of the risks, namely cyberbullying, digital reputation, and access to inappropriate content. Adults must help children develop an awareness of the importance of their digital reputation. Counselors and other educators and adults can be powerful disseminators of information on technology and its usefulness in the classroom. One of the most helpful things caring adults can do is guide children to develop a consistent internal ethic regarding their use of technology. And please remember, you can contact Dr. Sabella as a speaker and find his books here on our website at ncyi.org. Thank you again for joining us today, and we would invite you to join us again at ncyi.org for more great training resources.